Alrighty, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you came to this link for the zine release for After Poems by yours truly, you're in the right place. We are, there's a handful of us here, and I'm really, really excited that everybody has sort of made time hey there, Anita, has made time this afternoon, this Sunday afternoon, to hear some poems. This is going to be a short and sweet event. We're not going to be here all night. If you are signed into your Google or your YouTube account, you can add comments in the chat, so we know that somebody's out there listening, present with us. My name is Ariana Brown. My pronouns are she and they. Coming to you live from my dining room in Houston, Texas, to share this collection of multimedia visual poems that I've been working on over the last year or so, and finally sat down over the last few weeks to make into a collection. Those of you who know me know that it's been a really intense year, but I made it this far, and we're here to celebrate that today. So to help me do that, I invited 5 poets who I know and love very deeply. I very much am a fan of their work as well, and I suggest that you check them out after the reading today. But they're going to help me read some of the poems from After Poems. It's a bit of a heavy collection, and so I felt that it would be helpful to have some of my community that's helped me survive in the last year also help read the poems, share the poems, and participate in the celebration. So we are going to hear, I'm going to go at the end, but we are going to hear from Tianna Bratcher, Jacqui Germain, Bernard Ferguson, Ayokunle Falomo, and Devin Samuels, all of whom are amazing in my book. I'm super excited that they're here with me today. And without further ado, hi, Jesus. Hi, Amber. Yeah, thank y'all for showing up. Please keep letting us know, how you're feeling in the chat. Oh, and I should say, if you don't already have a copy of the zine, all the print copies have sold out, and I don't plan on making more at this point in time because I have to assemble all of them individually. But you can buy a digital copy of the zine, and I'll actually put the link in the chat right now to buy a digital copy if you are interested. Okay, so that's the link. So you can do that now, you can do it later. I'm super excited for you to see this. To kick us off, we are going to hear from Tianna Bratcher first. So Tianna, please take us away whenever you're ready.
Hi. Sorry. In true virtual situation, in true virtual situations, I have to set up my double screen here. Was not prepared. But I am so excited to be here. I'm so excited to have the honor of reading one of your pieces, Ariana, and to be a part of this event. So grateful to be in friendship with you and learn from you and just love on you. So this is really exciting for me to be here. Thank you for asking me to be here. I am going to be reading the first poem in the collection, and the title of this poem is Bread. I don't like to cook. First, there's the standing. Then there's the measuring, the chopping, the checking and double checking and triple checking when I'm hungry and tired and just seems like that it's okay to not enjoy. And this just seems like it's something, sorry. And this just seems like something it's okay to not enjoy. Still, I cook, so I am responsible for what goes into my body. I've cooked for myself in every city I've lived, for every mood I've been in. Have you ever cooked while angry and tasted it in the food? Have you ever cooked a meal lovingly for someone who didn't love you? Said, I put my hands in this, my foot in this. I made time to make food so you didn't have to. I thought of you. I wanted you and did something to prove it. I knew you would need something, so I made sure you had it. Have you ever begged someone to tell you the truth? To stay or go but not be in between? If you've eaten my food, washed in my tub, It means I prepared for you, was kind and beautiful to you of all people. Have you ever eaten an awful meal? Loved a mean man? Did both so often they ruined your day or your year? Have you ever been so poor you couldn't afford food? Couldn't recognize yourself? Have you ever forced yourself to eat something you hate because it's what you had? Now, have you ever eaten fresh bread? Yellow from the turmeric your new partner laid with salt. Enough salt that it didn't need butter, just to break softly in your hand. Have you ever eaten food touched by someone you love, who took their time, loved cooking for you and said so, didn't measure anything because they didn't need to, couldn't talk them out of feeding you? I love someone now who gives more than they take, who buys ice cream for themselves and lets me eat most of it, encourages me even, holds my stomach, which has never been flat, and does not ask me to change. I still hate cooking. I'm a little better at it now. My partner teaches me to roast a chicken, make apple crisp, feel a love that is breathable and hard won, and ours. It is ours. That was Bread by Ariana. Thank you again for letting me be here. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Jacqui.
Thank you so much for that, Tianna. That was really beautiful. And thank you to Ariana for writing all of this and also for bringing all of this together. I think these kind of collections, I feel like they feel really temporary and very special in a way that I really appreciate you inviting us to be part of this. So the poem I'm reading is called "How to Grieve Your Lover" after Susie Q. Smith. If you need to grieve your lover, who is still there but not there, go to the pottery studio and buy a tall bag of clay. If you've never done this before, start with white clay. It looks gray now, right now, the same color as the grief settling into the corners of the apartment you share with your lover, the same color as the cat you fell in love with, the only being in that apartment that still loves you back. Double check your bag of clay to ensure it includes a wire with wooden handles at both ends. Use the wire to slice a square hunk of clay about 2 inches thick. Hold the portion in your hands. By the time you are done, it will be something new. Did they give you a scale? Weigh the clay. This step is important. Your piece mustn't be too big or too small. You want to be able to use it. After all, you paid money for it, for this experience. The distance from the gray apartment, your lover's cold eyes. Smack the clay on all sides until it forms a ball. Throw it on a large wooden board over and over until all the air pockets are gone. Since you didn't come to the studio with someone to talk to, only your grief, put headphones in and skip the love songs. You and I both know you can't listen to Stevie Wonder right now. Take the wooden board off your station. Throw your clay in the center of a lightly dampened wheel right on the bullseye. If you miss the center, try again until you're close. This part can be frustrating, but no more so than your lover saying they don't want to touch you anymore and they don't know why. You'll touch the clay again soon. Wrap your hands around a sponge and a bucket of cold water and squeeze it over the clay, but don't drench it. This is not a lesson in drowning, no matter how often you think of dying. Start the wheel spinning, smack the clay hard, keep pushing it toward the center. When the clay is smooth and wet all over, use your thumbs to make an opening at the top. When was the last time you were touched like this? Do you remember how it feels to be wanted? Widen the opening, wetting the clay whenever it dries. Keep the wheel spinning the entire time. Next, build the walls. You'll need them. Wet your fingers again. Use one hand to steady the outside of the clay as it spins. Use your other hand to lightly pinch the wall, starting from the base and working your way up. It is not your fault if you daydream about past lovers while doing this. The guilt you feel is small compared to the number of times you've had to ask to be kissed or held or listened to. Stop before your walls get too thin and collapse. You want to be able to drink out of this mug you're making. It needs to be sturdy. Take your foot off the pedal. When your wheel stops spinning, check your progress. Have you widened the opening in your mug too much? You were crying and couldn't see when it was time to say when, weren't you? Shh. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You were trying to make a mug, but you made a bowl instead. It's not what you wanted, this or the grief, but at least you made an effort. Now you have something to eat cereal in your apartment. Thanks, y'all. And I am passing it off to Devin.
Whew. Thank you so much, Jacqui, for that wonderful reading. It's close to my heart as a ceramicist and poet person, and for many other reasons that Ariana knows. Thank you, Ariana, for having me here. Being able to share this experience with you, with all of you. So I'm going to be reading the poem Leaving, and it feels appropriate given that I'm the resident New Englander in this reading group. So it's like definitely some parting as well. Leaving. I pack up the apartment in Massachusetts. One by one, my things go into tote bags, suitcases, and grocery bags to stuff in my car. Never mind the boxes I'd saved for our next move, tucked into the corner behind the pantry, the green chair, the fridge. I pack up the apartment in Massachusetts, but I can't fit everything into my car. I leave the expensive vacuum cleaner, the yellow bedspread I love, 4 pillows, glassware, the records we picked out together on the last date you refused to be happy on. I think about breaking some of your dishes, but I somehow want to convince you that my rage is reasonable. So I don't. I have several dreams where I write coward in thick letters on your TV screen. The only thing stopping me is I'm not sure if I can survive entering your bedroom, which always felt like your bedroom, even when it was our bedroom. I pack up the apartment in Massachusetts. I toss the paintings I made for our space in the trash, the ones hanging above the dining table that match with the placemats and the red chair. I wanted to take the red chair, but it wouldn't fit. Another thing you get to keep. I pack up the apartment in Massachusetts. I boil and sweep an egg around the perimeter. Clear my hair from the drains and trash cans. My friend says you can never be too sure. I want to leave a curse on this place, the one I almost died in. I can't slide to the floor without thinking of all the times you watched me and thought only of yourself. I packed up the apartment in Massachusetts. Leave my forwarding address on the fridge. When I leave, I text you. The key is in the Dropbox next door. Do not re-enter my life. Thank you. Passing it to Bernard.
These poems. I want to leave a curse on this place, the one I almost died in. Fuck. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for the invite, Ariana. I feel really like special with this like relationship, this friendship we have that budded this year. I would not have survived the hard bits that I've survived without you. So, this feels really special to like be here and share in this moment. I'm gonna read. I wanted the apple orchard. Orchard? Do people say orchard? I say orchard. I don't know. Whatever. I mix it up. Y'all know what I mean. I want to read the apple orchard and to be kissed inside it. When the world held its breath, the shop doors closed. We were asked to wear masks to keep living, and I tried. Named every fruit I dreamed of placing in your hand. We were never going to make it to the farm. I didn't know that then, the lie you kept. I wished for hard pinks and reds, a sweet backdrop to fall into, to be loved and touched in. I don't miss New England, but I do miss you. The moments before I knew we were in the wrong season, our colors pale and inside out. I'd missed the seed splitting, your fingers pulling it from the ground while I made laps around everything I thought we were growing. I am not a gardener, no tolerance for bugs or dirt beneath the skin, but I would have put on boots to drink cider with you. In my mustard scarf and gloved palm, I would have kept you warm if you permitted. I admit, because of you, I am different, scared of the things I wish for in the cold. I've been a brittle leaf in the middle of the road, given up on being green. I wanted the orchard, and the apples piled high and shiny, and the heat of our breath glowing like stars on the tips of our tongues. But by the time you searched the farms near us, nothing was open. You closed everything inside you and avoided my body like it was a fever. I am not sorry for wanting. I am not grateful for growth. Beautiful things expire. If you hold on too long, you will too. I was deeply unloved. Trust me, I know. All right, y'all. I'm gonna pass it over to Ayo.
Trust me, I know. Ariana knows I know. Yeah, that was a wonderful reading, Bernard. It's my second favorite poem from the project. Thank you for having me here. Everybody has already said everything that needs to be said, but I'm really grateful to be here. Um, here today, celebrating you, Ariana. I'm very grateful for our friendship and grateful for like all the ways we kept each other alive, this past year. Um, the second day we went to the Houston Museum of African American Culture, Ariana texted me to say, they put together like the first 20 pages of the project, kind of like in a frenzy. So it's very, very wonderful to see it, come into fruition, and that we're celebrating that today. So. But I'll be reading my absolute favorite poem. I love every poem in the Zine, but my absolute favorite poem from the Zine is "There Will Be," and that's the poem I'll be reading. There will be love, kisses on the cheek, a hand on your lower back, a look in the eyes saying you are wanted. There will be ease, soft breathing, and your favorite foods. A warm animal crawling into bed to sleep with you. There will be your family, your sisters, the black girls you love with ferocity. There is them and you together in safety. There is love. There will be everything you've dreamed, your own peace, a life you made, with others who love you and tell you and mean it and prove it. There will only be death if it is natural, if it is time. There will be no running out of time or running away or running in circles. There will be rest, a comfortable place to lay your head. There will be your body and its glorious shape, the nape of your neck, a healthy head of hair no one will want to change. There will be you looking in a mirror and smiling. There will be peace and grounding. There will be the sound of Black people laughing and eating and carrying on. And you will join them to laugh and eat and carry on and say ridiculous, beautiful things. There will be your things, your stuff that no one will take from you. There is love enough to go around. There is your history. no longer a shadow, but a collective reason to protect this world where things will be, where freedom lives. There will be studying in groups and questions for how to move forward. There will be people taking care of each other. There will be warm weather and fruit popsicles and your cousins holding you tight. There will be life. In this world, I am telling you, I pledge to you, there will be life. There will be reasons to stay, to play, to give, to ask, to learn, to know, to grow, to dance, to try, to not have to fight. There will be someone's hand in yours. There will be. Thank you so much.
Silent round of applause. I was like, maybe if other people read the poems, I won't cry. I love y'all so much. Thank you. Thank you for helping me present these poems and also just like survive the telling. I really appreciate it. Also, I can't think of how many times I have had my poems like read by other people, but particularly people that I love who love me. But that was great. I recommend it, if you've never experienced that. I'm going to read 2 poems, some of the last poems that come in the zine. This is what the zine looks like. And then we will move into a Q&A. I asked everyone here to bring a question for me about the zine. Everyone here has seen the zine from cover to cover. And so we'll get to questions in a little bit, and if there are questions from the audience, you can ask them in the chat after I finish. So the next poem I'm going to read is called Ariana. It's after a poem by Megan Malachi. Ariana does an Al Green impression that always makes her laugh, but only when she isn't too sad to sing tired of being alone. Ariana washes her face with drugstore soap, the cheap stuff, because she doesn't want to learn about skincare. It's too expensive, she says, even though she's not sure if it is or not. Ariana is getting used to making oatmeal for one again. Forgets she only needs half a cup now. Ariana sleeps with the lights on to scare away the roaches in her apartment. She started chewing the inside of her cheek in her sleep again. Ariana needs to be held, but doesn't trust anyone to do it right. When she thinks of her ex, she says, "Fuck you," and feels better, even if just a little. Ariana moonwalks while brushing her teeth, cleans roaches out of the sink, twists her hair in her friend's bedroom, and takes summer walks in the Texas heat. Ariana is tired of being alone. Ariana is scared of love, but she'd do it again, right now, if she could. Post-breakup birthday prayer. Ebony tells me I am resilient and brilliantly attuned to love. When she talks, I listen. I believe her with my whole heart because she's never given me a reason to doubt. I trust women like that, who know the power of their own presence, how to tend and tell a joke and place a boundary and keep you on the other side of it. Too much living to do to let people walk all in your shit. Before you know it, all you see is footprints and a passing feeling you used to be somebody you recognized. Devin tells me I deserve more attention from those who say they love me, that I have permission to be uncivil, ugly, to shatter ceramics to get my point across when no one will listen. I won't be the only thing that breaks around here anymore. I know the depths of myself now. I've heard the sound I make when I am loved badly, and I don't wish to forget. What keeps you remembering yourself? I call Lois and Jacqui and Jesse and Christopher, and they all say, I knew you before this hurt, and I will know you after. They promise. They pull me from wherever I've gone and show me to myself. They say, do you remember that I love you too? Do you remember our shitty apartment on Riverside, the roof that wouldn't stop leaking? Do you remember your shaved head the first time we met? Did you know there is nothing difficult about showing up for you? Do you know how to know yourself again? Ariana, you like smoothies with lunch and early bedtime. You sleep for 8 hours and still hate mornings. You remember everyone's birthday. Keep a hand open to the wind to feel your father flying through your fingertips. 2 feet on the ground, Ariana Brown, you are divinely accounted for. Your kin lift their heads and smile when you call on them. How blessed to have at the top of your head a list of people who work to make sure you are well in the world. Is this what you've been waiting for since you learned more strength was needed to survive this life? What you need, you will have. Alan, Enrique, Adam, Sasha offer their ears and kind words and make plans to see you because it is easy to do these things when you care about someone. And the bad love begins to clear out, to make room for everyone who already loves you, to make room for the familiar you and the new you are becoming. Past and future combined, I remake myself in the image of those who love me, starting with my own reflection. We have never been here before, and yet we know how to proceed, make the arrangements. I will never leave my faith or myself again. In my own name, I pray. Amen. Thank y'all for sticking with me. I could not have done this by myself. I'm so glad that y'all are here with me. Maybe we could like take a collective deep breath and then answer some questions. Okay, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, inhale. Exhale. All right, who's got a question for me?
I can jump in, break the ice. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about how a process like this is so personal while also being so much in a community, because you need your community to hold you through it. And especially with you just literally moving locations during a pandemic, like needed community. And oftentimes there's a lot of question about how we wield our friendships and love and people as characters in our poems. And so I'm really curious about in this work that both was very much a personal experience, but also an experience that involved a lot of people, how you were moving through that negotiation of when to name people, when not to, what felt fair or not fair, in terms of bringing people to life publicly through the world of your poems.
Yeah, that is a question. Yeah, I mean, I think, so I'll say this, all of the poems that are, not all of them, most of the poems in this collection are, I wrote over the last year, and I didn't imagine that they were going to be a part of a public anything. I was just writing them because I didn't want the thoughts to stay in my head. I knew what I had been through, but somehow I needed to also tell it. And so I was just kind of making little poems and notes and saving lines here and there. And I thought the poems were just going to stay in my Google Drive. I also wanted to wait until I felt not so, I guess, less emotionally raw to be able to decide what I wanted to share with others. And I knew I wasn't in that headspace for a long time. It wasn't until a few months ago that I was like, I think this is going to be like a multimedia thing. Like, I think it needs to not just be words on a page. I think I need photos and illustrations and other things in there to help convey all of the senses of this experience. And so when I was writing everything initially, I just wrote it how it felt right in the moment. I went back later and edited things or decided what wasn't going to go in here. There was a poem that was going to go in here that I just took out at the last minute because I was like, I don't feel that way anymore. That doesn't feel like accurate to me right now. And I think I also wanted to make a lot of space for anger because I think that's a very valid emotion and one that I don't always let myself feel for real. And I kind of was just thinking like, these poems are not interested in like trying to cause harm to anybody else. They're trying to help me survive a thing that felt unsurvivable. So whatever I need to say in order to do that is priority. Yeah. Thank you for the question, Devin.
Amazing answer.
Thank you, Fred. Other questions that folks have?
I can go. If that feels cool for folks.
Yeah.
So I kind of piggybacking off of Devin's question and kind of just like you were kind of touching on it in your answer, but you have written a few chapbooks in a full-length book, and I am wondering, this is a very different project from all of the other projects you have put out, and I am wondering, what did creating a zine and not just another collection of poetry allow you to unlock or like dive into or recognize, or what did it unearth for you? You know, if we were in a workshop, that's what they would say. What unearthed for you? Yeah, I'm wondering what came up for you in that regards that wasn't able to come up in just like a regular poetry collection.
Yeah. Oh, I love this question too. I think I was kind of just in a space of like, I don't know if y'all felt this way, but I feel like for the first 2 years of the pandemic, I did have a really hard time writing about anything or just even wanting to write. I didn't have that feeling of wanting to write. I was like, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to say. There's nothing in the well. The well is empty. And so I was sort of able to figure out, you know, some poems here and there for this project. But a lot of the things that I was writing that didn't make it in didn't feel like poems. It was just like, this is a very straightforward paragraph about how I feel right now. And that's sort of it. When I started to think about making this into a collection of some kind, I really was trying to figure out how can I play again? Like, how can I do a project that I feel excited about, you know, where I feel like I'm learning a different skill or like using a different part of my brain or my creativity? Because I've put out at least 7 print chapbooks in the past. I'm very familiar with the process, you know what I mean? And it gets kind of monotonous after a while. So I was like, I just kind of want to do something different with it. Alan Belais Lopez is a really good friend of mine, and they are very interested in visual art and visual poems. And I took a workshop that they taught on visual poems a while back. And the thing that they said or instructed that stood out to me the most was they were sort of saying, like, let the image guide the poem that it becomes. And I'm still not really sure if I know fully how to do that. I still feel like a lot of the illustrations in here, the photos in here are kind of in response to the poem. So I don't know, maybe with more practice, I'll figure that out. But I was also just interested in like what can be conveyed in image or illustration or in like the use of white space that can't be said. Like what sort of becomes, what feelings can be evoked immediately with those things that it would take a lot longer to evoke with words. And so I really tried to play with that in the zine too. And then just having like little fun illustrations because I thought they were cool. And I think more people should do them, especially if you're self-publishing a chapbook. Like put an illustration of your cat in there. I want to see it. Thanks, Tianna.
That's a beautiful response, Ariana. And I think when we were talking about this, and also a wonderful question, like the space where you were like, I deleted all the pictures of the cat. Please imagine him beautiful, like that even, there is a presence of photos, of course, but like even the absence of a photo communicates something too. It's like, um, my question for you like is in regards to like form, which is like not a surprise to you. But like there are different things like happening formally in the zine, and I'm like interested, in the idea of like repetition that happens a lot, like anaphora as a form of like organizing your thoughts. But also in addition to that, there is a lot of like question, like like interrogation inside the poem that happens. So maybe not necessarily to the self, but just like to the potential reader, or like the future self. Like have you ever considered things like that show up? And I'm wondering like how intentional were you in terms of like you know, uh, using kind of like that framework for like putting the zine together. Um,
I'm just making some notes for myself about your question, Ayo. Yeah, I feel like the asking questions of the reader is just like a a leftover habit from slamming for so long. Just like knowing eventually somebody will hear it, But I think also at this point I've been writing in what like I know my voice. I know what my natural pacing is when I'm reading a poem aloud, and so sometimes it's just sort of intuitive at this point. When I get to a certain point in a poem, I'm like, it's time for a question. We're gonna ask a question now, and then we're gonna do something else. So that part feels intuitive and like a just a slam habit. But you brought up the repetition, and you and I talked about this the other day when we were debriefing after the museum. Yeah, I think a lot of the thoughts and feelings after a breakup just feel cyclical, and I think also too, there's also a lot of repetition in the poems in the zine because I was still, even though I was writing, I was still having a hard time writing. I was like, I don't remember how to start poems anymore. I don't have any, like, there's also something that feels so ordinary about the grief of going through a breakup that it didn't always feel like I felt like I had things to say, but I didn't feel like they were original in any kind of way. So it was hard to get started writing a poem. So I was like, okay, if I just repeat this line over and over again and I add in some stuff in the middle, by the end of it, I will have a poem. And that was a way to just keep writing and to just keep writing through the feelings. So I think I was looking at, initially I thought this was, I had the title come to me. Initially I thought this was going to be a book entirely of of poems written after other people's poems and in the style of other people's poems so that they could give me the structure and I would just fill it in. And I did that for like 3 poems. And then I was like, I have a lot of feelings. We're just going to see where this goes. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Ayo.
I got a question for you, friend.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to Tiana's question, where I'm thinking about what the zine format provides, but I'm especially thinking about like what it provides when thinking and writing about heartbreak. I think of like sometimes when I have tried to write poems about heartbreak, the typical poem format or the typical thinking of like publishing a chapbook or a full length or something, the way they might appear, the things that they can interact with, the things that I can provide a reader, the things that I can have live side by side with the poems. I feel like it's so limiting. And so I'm wondering if there's any feeling of how the zine format allowed you to think about, write about, move through the heartbreak, especially now that you have it like printed in your hand? Like, is there something you discovered about writing about heartbreak through this format?
Mm.
Something that provided you?
I'm just thinking for a moment. Yeah, I knew that I knew that I wanted to include photos. I tried to document as much as I could from. There's also like so many photos I took while I was in the process of moving and packing and getting into my new apartment for logistical reasons, right? I had to take pictures of the stuff that I sold on Facebook Marketplace that I couldn't fit in my car. I had to take pictures of my room because it was going to be subletted. So I had a lot of these photos in my phone, and I felt like I wanted to do something with them as a way of, as a means toward recovering something. I'm trying to think what else about the zine format. Yeah, there's also something about, I kind of said this in a different way earlier, but there were some things that just felt so overwhelming to say that I was like, this is actually just easier for me if there's a picture here. So I don't have to say it. So I don't have to revisit it. I'll just put this there, maybe a little bit of text, and okay, now we're into the next thing that I actually feel like I can talk about. So it kind of gave me space to feel safe exploring the grief. I think that's the answer. This is the look on Bernard's face right now.
Did you also want to say, it was to Ayo's point about the questions, the first thing I thought of was like, Ariana has such a particular intonation with the way that she asks questions in her poems, which means that, like, for anyone who's like, I feel like probably all of us have seen Ariana perform before, it's impossible not to read the poems in your head in your voice. But like the questions are a key part of that because you got them questions. my my question it's kind of similar to everyone else's too, but I guess when it comes to the zine, I think it's really interesting. My question is kind of about like pacing, right? You're sort of on a truncated timeline for this zine because you're sort of writing poems reacting to a moment, and they sort of came out in a flood, and then you were able to sort of put it out in the world on your own timeline. Versus perhaps for your full length, the process of research, right? Like all of the years of like research and also going through lots of things and and then actually going through like the formal sort of like press, like publishing process to a certain extent. So I guess I'm wondering about what you've learned. And then also, unlike a lot of other poets, to be honest with you, you have a lot of experience self-printing, right? Which is also another kind of a timeline. So I guess I'm wondering, going through self-printing, a zine, a full length, like what have you sort of learned about pacing in terms of writing poems and putting an entire collection together from those different experiences?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question right there. Yeah, this is funny because I recently talked to not youth poets, but poets who are younger than me here in Houston about like putting chapbooks out. I was like, I have all this advice to give, on like formats and where to sell it and all this kind of stuff. One thing I've known about myself for a long time is I really do not like the process of assembling print chapbooks myself. And I usually do it myself. I print them myself. I have like special tools. I have like a super long stapler. I had to buy a heavy duty stapler actually to staple this scene because it's so thick. And then you have to do it sort of page by page, like getting it together, getting all the envelopes and taking them to the post office and all of that stuff. So I I definitely know how tedious that is. I knew that I wanted I thought I was gonna make this in December. I thought I was gonna release it by like by Christmas, and I was going to be done. And then I had to move again in November. And you think you be having plans, and then life is like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You're gonna be doing this other thing instead. And so, yeah, I don't know what happened at the turn of this year. Something just, it felt easier to just actually tap into this and make it. And I knew that I wanted to just get it out of me as fast as I could. I didn't want to do a whole long, I could have done a longer pre-order process. I could have made many more print copies. I could have tried to do all these other things to publicize it. But I also know most of these poems are not going to be published online in print journals and things like that, because they're not this type of formal poetry that is valued in that way. I knew that I just wanted people to see them. I just wanted people to see them, and I wanted to not have to think about it anymore. And so that's why I did 50 print copies. I said, I think I can handle assembling 50 of them. I had limitations on what that was going to look like. And then the digital copies are available for folks now if they want to download them. And that's going to be it. I'm not going to do any more promotion from this. I'm not going to do any more readings of poems from this zine. This is a very standalone project, and whoever wants to stick with my work for the next thing I do after this, they can. But I needed this to be contained so that I can move on. At least I'm trying. I'm really trying. We have a few more minutes. I'll ask. There's a handful of folks still with us watching on YouTube Live. So shout out to y'all. Do any of y'all have a question? I can maybe take one or two questions, and then we can call it a day. No pressure. While that's happening, I'm curious for Devin, Tianna, Jacqui, Bernard, and Ayo, just how y'all are feeling right now.
Just feeling grateful for you, Ariana. That's it from me. Just very, very grateful for who you are and for what your work does and makes possible. Not just for you, not just for me, but collectively. I think somebody said this earlier. You can't do this work without community. And you remind me so much of that all the time. So thank you.
Thanks, Ayo.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty full. I'm feeling really grateful. I'm also, it's a little complicated for me, where there is this really hard moment globally and in your life that also allowed and opened up for me to have the most access to you physically and via phone that I've had in our entire relationship. So looking at these poems and remembering different moments has been really this weird guilty joy of both seeing how hard it was and knowing how hard it was, being there with you, but also remembering being there with you and some of those meals and some of those moments, which will still be really fond memories for me, and really formative, even in almost especially steeped in the context that they were steeped in.
I miss you too, Devin. Yeah, I miss you all the time. I can't with this face you're making. Yeah, I love you a lot. I miss you a lot. Next time you're in Houston.
No, it will be sooner rather than later for sure.
Okay. Just let me know. You can meet the cat, everything.
Hell yeah.
I see a question from Honeybee in the chat that says, how do you know the difference between what you write for public consumption and what you keep for yourself? Yeah, I always write for myself first. And and I often will just let the poems like sit for a while. So I'll say everything I need to say in the way I need to say it, and then doesn't have to say I won't look at it. Sometimes I like go back and I'm like, oh, I really like this poem. Like I did that, but I usually let it sit for a while until I feel like I'm in maybe a more like level-headed place, and then when I return to it, then I will return to it with an eye that's thinking about audience, like how will this be heard, who will hear it, or is there anything that I would like to edit about names or places, is there anything I would like to make clearer or less clear, and those I feel like are usually pretty intuitive questions for myself, depending on what my goals or my allegiances or priorities are. So I think being clear on what those priorities are is what helps you answer that question: what's for you and what's for other people. If there's anything that I would feel regretful or embarrassed about sharing with others, or things that I feel are too personal, but I still feel like I need to share them, then I might just share them with my friends. I might just like invite people over and just read poems aloud or email them to my friends, so that other people can witness, but it's not necessarily on a large public scale in that way. And I recommend that for sure. I see a question from Eric in the chat. I would like to hear you talk more about the title. I feel like there are a lot of interpretations you can have, so I'm curious. Yeah, initially I was like, it'll be called After Poems, and it'll be like a double entendre, right? That it's like, this is my life after like the worst thing I've ever experienced happened, and there'll also be poems written in the style of other poets. The second thing didn't really happen, but the first thing holds true. Yeah. I'm going through a Saturn return. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. Bernard is also going through their Saturn return at the same time. It's terrible. Two thumbs way down. Hate it. it's a big bad time. It's getting a little bit better though. I can't wait till I turn 30. Oh my God. I would love to feel grounded, like I know what the hell's going on. But yeah, this is sort of like after the start of the Saturn return. You too, Eric. Oh my gosh. My heart goes out to you. I hope you eat something good today, because it's just, yeah. But yeah, that's sort of what the title is. Period. That's the end of that thought. I would love to start closing out. I think I'm coming up on that in that space for myself. But I do want to say that I feel very loved and very held by all of you. And I'm really glad that you said yes, and that you said yes so quickly, and that I got to hear you read poems, which is one of my favorite things, is hearing other people read poems, and I haven't got to do that a lot lately. So thank you all. I love you all so much. Someone take a screenshot. Okay, we will talk soon. To everyone in the audience, if you haven't got your copy of the zine yet, the link, I'm gonna put the link in the chat. And that's it. Thank you for being here. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Bye, everyone.